It's not like I actually miss them. New York City, my tiny apartment, my freelance graphic design gigs, that's my real life now, the one I built myself. But every few months, I still hop in my beat-up Civic and make the 4-hour drive back to that quiet, kinda sleepy suburb in Connecticut. Back to my dad, David, and my stepmom, Eleanor. It's just a thing, a routine, I guess. Like paying taxes or getting an oil change. It just has to be done. I've been on my own for over a decade now. 30 years old, a grown woman. So yeah, I always told myself it was responsibility, an old habit maybe, but definitely not some deep-seated longing. Yet every single time the car pulls up that familiar driveway, past the overgrown rose bushes Eleanor keeps forgetting to prune, a weird feeling washes over me. It's like a quiet hum beneath my skin, a soft throb where an old wound used to be. The house itself hasn't changed. Same faded blue siding, same creaky front porch swing. But stepping inside, it always feels off. Like the air is a little too still, a little too heavy. It just makes me feel itchy, uncomfortable. I push those thoughts down, always do. My go-to explanation? It's just the lingering memory of that brutal illness I had when I was 8. Man, that was a nightmare. High fever, hallucinations, lying in bed for what felt like months, seeing shadows dance on the walls, hearing whispers in the dark. It was rough. But Dad and Eleanor, they were there. They told me I fought like a warrior, that they stayed by my side day and night, spoon-feeding me bitter medicine, checking my temperature every hour. I survived because of them. I owe them, really. That memory, that feeling of being saved, it's always been my bedrock. The reason I trust them, no questions asked. All the strange, fleeting glimpses of fear or darkness I remember from back then, just fever dreams, I always rationalized. The mind plays tricks when it's burning up. Makes perfect sense, right? So I pulled myself together, like always. The car crunched on the gravel. The front door opened before I even reached the steps. Dad was there, his usual warm, crinkly smile. Eleanor, too. She was wearing that floral apron she always has on, smelling faintly of something sweet baking. They hugged me. Dad squeezed me tight, like he always does. Eleanor's hug was softer, flimsier maybe. As I pulled back, I caught her eye. Just for a split second, a flash. It wasn't a smile, not really. More like an absence, a hollow stare that made my stomach drop. Then it was gone, replaced by that perfectly pleasant, welcoming expression. I blinked, shook my head a little. Must be the drive, tiredness. I just imagined it. My mind playing tricks again. I gotta stop doing that. Dinner that night was, well, dinner. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, all the stuff Dad loves. We talked about my work, their garden, the usual small talk. It was all so normal. Too normal, maybe. I was picking at my green beans, just trying to find something to say that wasn't about freelance deadlines, when it just slipped out. You know, I was thinking about that time I was sick when I was a kid. 8 years old, right? Man, that was a trip. I still remember those weird nightmares. You guys really saved my butt back then. Dad froze. His fork, midway to his mouth with a piece of chicken, stopped dead. His grip tightened on the knife, his knuckles going white. The smile on his face, the one he'd had all evening, kinda sagged. He cleared his throat, a little too loud. Oh, that? Yeah, that was a time. He swallowed hard, then forced out a laugh that sounded more like a cough. But hey, that's old news, kiddo. Why bring up ancient history? Pass the gravy, will ya? He immediately started talking about the weather, something about a storm brewing down the coast. I watched Eleanor. Her face was blank, absolutely nothing. It was like a wall. I kinda shrugged, passed the gravy. Whatever. Maybe he just didn't like reminiscing about tough times. People do that, I guess. It's not like it was a big deal. Just a little odd. But then the dreams started. Not right away, but a couple of nights later. They were intense. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart hammering like I'd just run a marathon. The first one, I was lying in this dark room. No windows, just a tiny little opening high up, barely a slit, with rusty bars across it. The walls were rough, cold stone. I was tiny again, maybe 8 years old, curled up on something hard and damp. I could hear it, a faint scratching, rhythmic and persistent, from somewhere nearby. And then, my own voice, a weak, desperate whimper, a tiny moan. And then, a shadow would fall over me. A huge hand, rough and strong, would press down on my face, pinching my nose, forcing my mouth open. And then something bitter, so incredibly bitter, would be poured down my throat. It burned, it choked me. I'd cough, struggle, but the hand held me fast. I bolted upright in bed, gasping, my lungs burning, that metallic taste of fear in my mouth. My sheets were soaked. My pulse was going 100 miles an hour. I tried to calm myself, gripping the edge of the mattress. It's just a dream, Sarah. Just a dream. Must be stress from work. Or maybe, I don't know, it's just the old fever playing tricks on me, even now. Residual stuff, you know? Yeah, that's it. It's gotta be it. I lay back down, but sleep wouldn't come. My eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling, feeling every beat of my frantic heart. The dreams came back, off and on, for the next few nights. Each time, the same dark room, the same tiny barred window, the same struggle, the same bitter taste. And the scratching. Always the scratching. It was always there, a low, unsettling background noise in the dream. And then, one night, it wasn't just in my head anymore. I was maybe halfway into a fitful sleep. One minute, I was drifting. The next, my eyes snapped open. I heard it. A faint sound, a persistent, almost gentle scraping. Richette, Richette, Richette. It was quiet, barely audible, but unmistakable. It was coming from somewhere above me. The gabled ceiling, maybe? Or from behind the wall near my headboard. It sounded like fingernails, long and thin, dragging slowly, deliberately, across old, dry wood. A shiver went right down my spine, cold and sharp. My breath caught in my throat. I sat bolt upright, muscles locked, straining to hear. Richette, Richette. My heart started to pound against my ribs, a dull thudding in the sudden, heavy silence of the room. I held my breath, listening, my ears aching. The sound was so distinct, so close. My scalp prickled. And then, just as quickly as it started, it stopped. Nothing. Just the slow, heavy beat of my own heart in my ears. I sat there in the dark, absolutely frozen. My eyes darted around the room, seeing nothing but familiar shadows stretching from the furniture. My mind raced, grabbing for explanations. A mouse, yeah, definitely a mouse. Or maybe just the wind, rattling some loose siding, making it sound like something else. Old houses make noises, right? Of course. It's just a normal old house full of normal old house sounds. I tried to tell myself that, really tried. But the quiet after the scratching was somehow worse. It left a cold, clammy feeling on my skin, and sleep felt 1,000,000 miles away. Damn, this house, this place just gets to me. It really does. That night, after the scratching stopped, I didn't get a wink of sleep. My brain was just buzzing. All those little tricks I usually played on myself, the mouse theory, the wind explanation, they just crumbled. Like, seriously? A mouse? A mouse doesn't sound like it's trying to claw its way out of a coffin, let alone calling my name. And the wind? No, no way. The house was dead quiet now, but that silence was heavier than ever. It was pressing down on me, making my skin crawl. This whole house thing, it was getting to me. That weird feeling I get every time I pull into the driveway,
It wasn't some old wound acting up. It was something else, something in the air, like an invisible hand reaching out from the shadows, just touching me. I kept looking over my shoulder, even when I was alone in my room. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the old pipes, it made my heart jump. My eyes kept darting to the darker corners, half expecting to see something staring back. It felt like someone, or something, was watching me, always, peeking from behind the curtains, lurking just beyond the threshold of my vision, like a predator, just waiting. I tried to push it all down, tried to make sense of it. One part of me, the part that's been drilled to believe everything my parents told me, wanted to shake it off, laugh it away. Just Sarah being Sarah, overthinking things. But another part, a louder, more desperate part, was screaming. It wanted answers.
It wanted to dig, and man, that part was winning. I felt like I was losing my damn mind. My head throbbed. What the hell was going on? The scratching started again. Not every night, but enough. Enough to keep me wired, always listening. It wasn't just faint anymore. Now it was louder, more deliberate, like someone behind the plaster, just hacking away at the wood, or maybe trying to break free. I'd be lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to breathe, and then scrape, scrape, thump. It sounded like something hitting the wall, then dragging, then hitting again, like a frantic struggle. One night I heard a sigh, a long, shaky breath, like someone had been holding it for too long. It was so faint I almost thought it was my own imagination, a trick of my tired brain. But then I heard it again, a low murmur, like a whisper against the wall. I couldn't make out words, just a soft, raspy sound. My body went cold. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. My feet were glued to the floor, my throat tight. And then the worst thing happened. I was just drifting off, finally, when I heard it, clear as day, a small, soft voice, a child's voice, I swear to God. It whispered my name, so softly. Sarah. My eyes snapped open. I shot upright, heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted to claw its way out. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely find the lamp switch. Flick! The light flooded the room, harsh and yellow. I gasped, panting, my eyes scanning every inch of the room. Nothing. Just the familiar furniture, the shadows retreating back into corners. My old stuffed bear still sat on the dresser. My childhood drawings still tacked to the corkboard. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the sound, the voice, it was so real. My pulse was still going nuts, my chest heaving. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to tell myself it was a dream, just a goddamn dream. But the taste of fear, metallic and raw, was still in my mouth. My sheets were soaked with sweat. No dream could do that. The next morning, I tried to be casual, really tried. I sat at the breakfast table, pushing my oatmeal around. Dad was reading the paper. Eleanor was sipping her tea. The picture of domestic bliss, right? So fake it made my teeth ache. Hey, I started, trying to keep my voice even. You guys ever hear weird noises at night? Like scratching or murmuring? Dad slowly lowered his newspaper. His eyes, usually so kind, had this hard edge to them. A flicker of something I couldn't quite place, but it made my stomach clench. He cleared his throat. Noises? He gave me a look. Sarah, you still sleepwalking or something? Must be dreaming. You always had an overactive imagination. He picked his paper back up, a little too quickly. His jaw was tight. I could practically see the muscle twitching under his skin. I glanced at Eleanor. She didn't even flinch, just took another slow sip of her tea, her gaze fixed on the window. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were like polished stones, cold, distant. David's right, she said, her voice flat, emotionless. You're probably just stressed from work. Freelance graphic design, all those deadlines. You need to relax more, dear. Get some proper sleep. She didn't crack a smile, just nothing, a blank wall. My hands, hidden under the table, were starting to tremble.
This wasn't normal. Their reactions, the way they shut me down, it was wrong. All wrong. Later that day, I was supposed to be cleaning out some old boxes in my room. You know, adult stuff. But my mind wasn't on tidying. I started rummaging through my old wardrobe, the one with the squeaky door. It was full of dusty clothes I hadn't worn since high school, faded toys, forgotten art projects. I knelt down, pushing aside a pile of old sweaters, my fingers scraping against the rough wood at the very bottom. That's when I felt it. Something thin, hard, and tucked deep into a crevice. I pulled it out. It was a small, worn notebook, dark blue, the kind you'd get in elementary school. My old diary. My heart gave a weird lurch. I didn't even remember having this. It was stuck in a place where no one would ever find it, unless they were really looking. I wiped off the dust with my sleeve, my fingers tingling. I flipped it open. The first few pages were exactly what you'd expect from an 8-year-old. Drawings of stick figures, a clumsy story about my dog, details about my second-grade teacher. All normal. Then came the blank pages.
So many of them. Like someone had just stopped writing for months. My stomach tightened. Was this from that time? The time I was sick? I kept turning, my breath catching in my throat. After the blank section, the writing started again. But it wasn't neat. It was a messy scrawl, like a kid trying to write in the dark or in a hurry. And the drawings, oh God, the drawings. They weren't cute stick figures anymore. They were terrifying. One page showed thick, rusty bars, like on a window, but with tiny hands reaching out from behind them. Another had tall, shadowy figures looming over a small, curled-up shape. And then there was a face. Just a face. Distorted. Eyes wide and staring. Mouth stretched into a silent scream. All lines and jagged edges. It looked wrong. So wrong. My hands were shaking so hard the pages rattled. My palms were sweaty, and I felt a cold dread creep up my throat. This wasn't a child's imagination. This was fear. Pure, unfiltered fear, trapped on paper. I flipped to the very last page. It was almost ripped. And there, scrawled in faint pencil, barely legible, "Don't trust them." The words hit me like a physical blow. My vision blurred. My head started spinning. I didn't remember writing this. I couldn't have. But it was my handwriting. The fear I'd been trying to push down, trying to rationalize, it roared to life. It was a massive, churning storm inside me. Everything they told me, everything I believed, my whole damn past, it was a lie. A carefully constructed, terrifying lie. Later that afternoon, I was trying to cool off in the living room, scrolling through my phone, pretending to be chill. But my mind was still on that diary, still replaying those drawings. I could hear Dad and Eleanor in the kitchen, their voices low, tense. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but their tone, it snagged something in me, made me hold my breath. "The old stuff was buried, David," Dad whispered, his voice tight with an edge I'd never heard before. "Why is she suddenly asking so many questions?" Eleanor's response was even colder. "We have to be careful. If she remembers, everything will fall apart." Her voice was like ice. My blood ran cold. I froze, my phone slipping in my sweaty grip. Remember what? The illness? The nightmares? Or the special summer camp they'd mentioned to Mrs. Albright, the one I supposedly went to when I was 8. What the hell was so terrifying about a summer camp that it would make everything fall apart? My heart started hammering. I felt a weird mix of terror and burning rage. I tiptoed to the edge of the living room, peeking around the corner into the kitchen. Dad was standing by the counter, his back to me. He was staring at something on the small side table, an old photo. It was faded, edges curled. A family photo. Him, Eleanor, and me. I was tiny, maybe 6 or 7, a gap-toothed smile plastered on my face.
A perfect, happy family. But Dad, he wasn't smiling. His face was pale, drawn. His eyes were wide, filled with a raw, panicked fear that made my own breath catch. He was terrified. Of that photo? Of me. My mind reeled. If I wasn't sick, if I wasn't home, if I was at some camp, then what did they do? What actually happened in this house during those months I was gone? The shadows, the whispers, the bitter medicine in my dreams, it all clicked into place, forming a picture so distorted and horrifying I wanted to throw up. This wasn't my home. This wasn't my safe haven. This was a damned tomb, burying secrets so foul, so rotten, I could almost smell them. And the question burned through me, chilling me to the bone. If it wasn't that, then what the hell was it? That day, everything just felt off, like the world had tilted on its axis, and I was barely holding on. My parents' whispers, that diary, those drawings, they didn't just make me question things. They shattered every single comforting idea I had about my childhood. The little tricks I used to play on myself, the "it was just a fever" excuses, they were gone, replaced by this huge, gaping hole of pure dread. This wasn't some vague unease anymore. It was a cold, hard knot in my gut, twisting tighter with every breath. I knew, with every fiber of my being, that something terrible, something way worse than any sickness or summer camp, had happened. And I needed to know what, no matter how ugly it got. I looked at Mom Eleanor, at Dad. Their smiles, fake.
Their words? Just noise, covering up something rotten. It felt like I was stuck in some messed up play, and everyone else knew their lines except for me. Like I was the only damn puppet on the stage without strings, and I was about to fall flat on my face. Or worse. I couldn't stand being in the house, not for another second. It felt like the walls were closing in, like the air itself was tainted with their secrets. I needed to breathe. I needed to get out. So I grabbed my keys, mumbled something about needing fresh air, and just walked out the front door. I walked past the manicured lawns, past the perfect little houses, trying to clear my head. My chest felt tight, like a fist was squeezing my lungs. Every shadow seemed to stretch, to whisper things I couldn't quite catch. I was almost at the end of the block, my thoughts a jumbled mess, when I saw her. Mrs. Albright, our old neighbor, you know? She used to bake me cookies when I was little. She was out in her front yard, tending to her roses, those bright red ones she loved so much. Her back was to me, a straw hat perched on her head. I felt this weird mix of warmth, seeing a familiar face, and then this cold jolt. Maybe she'd know something. Just a tiny detail. "Mrs. Albright?" I called out, my voice a little shaky. She turned, slowly, a watering can in her hand. Her face, a road map of wrinkles, broke into a sweet smile. "Sarah, dear! My, you've grown. Haven't seen you around much lately." "Hi, Mrs. Albright," I said, trying to smile back, but my lips felt stiff. "Yeah, just visiting. It's good to see you." We talked for a bit, just catching up. She asked about my work, my life in the city, and then I plunged in. No hesitation. The words just came out, desperate. "You know, I was just thinking about my childhood," I started, trying to sound casual, like it was just a random thought. "It's funny, I have such blurry memories of that year, you know, when I was 8, with that awful sickness I had. Dad and Eleanor always tell me how brave I was fighting it off. I was so lucky to have them. They really saved my life." I waited, watching her face. My heart hammered against my ribs, a wild drum in my chest. Mrs. Albright stopped. She just stopped. The watering can, still in her hand, dripped water onto her shoes. Her smile faded, replaced by this odd, confused look. Her eyes, usually so bright, seemed to glaze over for a second. Then she chuckled,
A light, airy sound, but it didn't reach her eyes. She looked at me, this strange little smile playing on her lips. "Oh, sickness, dear. No, no. You were healthy as a horse, Sarah. A strong little thing, always running around. But you weren't home during those months, were you?" My breath hitched. My throat went dry. She shook her head, a faraway look in her eyes. "Your parents said you went to a special summer camp, somewhere far away, to build independence. We all thought it was a bit odd, you know, for a child your age to be sent off like that for so long. Strange, really." She paused, then tilted her head. "But sickness? No, dear, definitely no sickness." The watering can slipped from her grasp, hitting the soft soil with a dull thud. Her words, simple, gentle, hit me like a physical blow. A goddamn freight train barreling right through my skull. My vision swam. No sickness. No devoted parents nursing me back to health. Instead, a cold, hard fact. I was sent away. Under a damn lie. The memories, they weren't echoes of a fever. They were shards of something else. The fear, the darkness, the scratching, the bitter taste of whatever they made me drink. Those weren't hallucinations. They were real. Pieces of that special summer camp. A camp that was anything but special. It was a prison, a damn nightmare. I muttered a quick goodbye, my voice raw, barely a whisper. I had to get away from her innocent, truth-telling words. I ran, back to the house, to the place I suddenly realized wasn't a home at all. My feet pounded on the pavement, a frantic rhythm matching my heart. When I burst through the front door, Dad was in the living room, staring out the window. Mom, Eleanor, was in the kitchen, humming some tune I didn't recognize. The air still hung heavy with their secrets, but now I could feel the sharp edges of them. "She told me," I choked out, my voice breaking. "Mrs. Albright. She said I wasn't sick. She said I went to a special summer camp."
Dad spun around, his face draining of all color. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. His eyes, wide and panicked, darted to Mom Eleanor. She came out of the kitchen, her humming dying in her throat. Her smile, the one she usually plastered on, twisted into something ugly, like she was trying to hold it together but failing. "Sarah, honey, Mrs. Albright is old," Mom Eleanor started. "You know how old people get. You were very sick. We were so worried." "Don't lie to me," I screamed, my voice cracking. Tears welled up, but they were tears of fury, not sadness. "The diary, those drawings, and what I heard you two whispering. Everything will fall apart if she remembers. What the hell did you do?" Dad tried to take a step towards me, his hand outstretched. "Sarah, you're not well. You're imagining things. The stress, it's getting to you." "Imagining?" I scoffed, a bitter, hysterical laugh bubbling up. "Oh, I'm not imagining anything anymore. I remember the fever. I remember the darkness, the scratching, the awful bitter taste. It wasn't sickness, was it? It was that camp." And then it happened. Right then. From the attic. Scrape, scrape, thump, loud, clear, like something heavy hitting the wooden floorboards, then dragging itself across, then hitting again. And this time, it wasn't just scratching. It was followed by this gasping sound, a deep, heavy, ragged breath, like someone had been holding it for way too long and just couldn't anymore. I looked up at the ceiling, my eyes wide, my body frozen. My parents followed my gaze, and their faces, oh God, their faces. They weren't looking at me with feigned concern anymore. They were looking up too. Their eyes were blown wide, filled with pure, unadulterated terror. Not because I knew, not because I was confronting them, but because of the sound, because of whatever the hell was up there. Another scrape, thump, closer this time. The house, my childhood home, suddenly felt like a tomb, a dark, gaping mouth of a tomb, full of rotting secrets. The question that had been haunting me, chilling me to the core, ripped through my mind again, louder than ever.
If it wasn't that, then what the hell was it? What was up there? What had been hidden? What had replaced me? Or what had that camp actually done to me? My whole reality shattered into a million sharp pieces, and I just stood there, caught in the middle of it all, knowing this wasn't the end. This was just the damn beginning.